Ella, an avid traveler, found herself driving into a remote town as the golden hues of the afternoon sun painted the landscape. The town had a certain silence that felt almost otherworldly, making her double-check her GPS to ensure she was at the right location. The streets were almost empty, save for a few older residents who seemed more like echoes from the past than people of the present. Ella noticed them casting fleeting glances her way, their expressions unreadable. She reached the Airbnb, a quaint blue cottage nestled at the edge of the town bordered by thick woods. The listing had mentioned its history, dating back centuries, which had intrigued her. Walking up the path, she noted the ivy creeping up the walls and the slightly overgrown garden. The isolation of the place was tangible, feeling like a weight in her chest. Reaching the front door, Ella frowned, finding it ajar. She distinctly remembered the host's instructions about a key under the doormat. Tentatively, she pushed the door, which gave a long, haunting creak. Inside, a chilling draft greeted her, contrasting the warmth outside. The furniture looked like it hadn't been changed in decades, adding to the cottage's old-world charm. However, the stifling silence felt out of place. She wandered from room to room, the sense of being watched growing stronger. In her exploration, Ella stumbled upon a door with a faded sign, "Do not enter." Despite her better judgment, she felt drawn to the door, turning the handle slowly. The room was a void of darkness, but as she stepped in, her eyes settled on a silhouette of a man sitting motionlessly in an armchair, his features hidden. Heart pounding, Ella stepped back, but the door closed behind her with a deafening slam, plunging her into terrifying darkness. The temperature dropped further, making her breath visible. A soft whisper echoed, making her jump. "Why are you here?" She didn't know if the voice was her own or that of the shadowy figure. She felt around for the doorknob, her fingers brushing against cold, decayed wood. The whispers grew louder, disjointed voices joining in, asking questions she didn't understand. Summoning every ounce of courage, she directed her phone's flashlight towards the armchair. It was empty. The whispers, however, continued, growing in intensity. Panicking, she finally found the door handle, rushing out of the room and barricading it with a nearby cabinet. Breathing heavily, she called the host, recounting her harrowing experience. He sounded genuinely concerned, rushing over immediately. Upon arrival, the host and Ella cautiously entered the room, only to find it bathed in a soft glow from the window, with no traces of the man or any disturbances, just the old untouched armchair. Ella, eager to leave the town and its mysteries behind, packed her belongings. As she left, the host confessed that several guests had reported odd occurrences in that room, but he'd never experienced anything himself. Driving away, the eerie silence of the town still echoing in her ears, she glanced at her rearview mirror. In the distance, the silhouette of the man stood outside the cottage, watching her leave. The incident at the cottage remained an enigma for Ella. The town, its haunting silence, and the mysterious room served as a chilling reminder of the unknown mysteries that lurk in the most unexpected places. Liam's travels had taken him to various corners of the world, but he'd always been drawn to the arcane allure of old European towns. His latest Airbnb was in such a town, in an ornate building with Gothic architecture, standing tall amidst cobbled streets and ancient structures. Upon his arrival, the elderly hostess greeted him warmly. As she handed over the keys, her demeanor shifted to a more serious tone. "Please avoid the 4th floor. It's off limits for guests." Liam, intrigued but respectful, nodded in agreement. The apartment was on the 3rd floor, beautifully furnished with antiques that whispered tales from another era. Large, heavy drapes framed windows that offered views of the sprawling town beneath. His first night was calm. However, as midnight approached, Liam was awakened by soft music playing. It seemed to be coming from directly above him, the 4th floor. The melody was melancholic, carried by the gentle touch of piano keys. Despite the eerie circumstances, there was a charm to it that Liam found difficult to resist. The thought of the forbidden floor sparked his curiosity. Equipped with a flashlight, he cautiously ventured towards the stairwell leading to the 4th floor. The ascent felt longer than expected, each step echoing through the building's vast emptiness. Reaching the top, Liam found a hallway lined with old photographs and candle sconces, the flames dancing to the rhythm of the haunting music. Ajar at the end of the hallway was a door from where the music emanated. Peeking inside, Liam was met with a grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting eerie shadows on the walls. But what truly captivated Liam was the sight of spectral figures dancing gracefully to the music, which seemed to be coming from an old gramophone. Their translucent forms glided across the ballroom floor, seemingly unaware of his presence. Suddenly, a lady in a vintage ball gown stopped and locked eyes with him. Her gaze was inviting yet unsettling. Liam's heart raced as she slowly extended a hand towards him, beckoning him to join the dance. The weight of the situation dawned on him. Panicking, Liam bolted from the fourth floor, his footsteps echoing loudly in stark contrast to the previously soft music. Breathless, he reached his apartment and bolted the door behind him. Sleep eluded him for the rest of the night, the haunting melody replaying in his mind. At dawn, Liam approached the hostess, recounting his chilling encounter. Her face paled as she listened, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and sorrow. She confessed that the building had once been a grand mansion. A tragic fire on the night of a grand ball had claimed many lives, with the fourth floor being the epicenter of the tragedy. The spirits of those who perished continued to relive that fateful night. She had hoped that by forbidding guests from the fourth floor, the spirits would remain undisturbed and the living unharmed. Liam left the town earlier than planned, the weight of his experience bearing down on him. The sounds of that melancholic tune and the image of the spectral dancers remained etched in his memory. His encounter on the forbidden floor was a chilling testament to the thin veil that sometimes exists between the world of the living and the realm of the departed. Natalie, intrigued by the Victorian architecture of the English countryside, booked an Airbnb to delve deeper into her studies. The sprawling home had a certain elegance and charm, but beneath its beauty lay something unsettling. The host, Martin, a seemingly amiable middle-aged man, handed her the keys but specifically warned her to steer clear of the room at the end of the east wing. His stern tone made it clear this wasn't just a casual request. Later that evening, while Natalie was immersed in her books, she began hearing a subtle scratching noise, followed by an eerie, muffled humming. Curious, she ventured closer to the locked room, and the noises grew louder, more frantic. She remembered another guest, Eliza, who had mentioned staying there for a week. Approaching her, Natalie shared her experience, to which Eliza responded that she too had heard the mysterious sounds, but they were more pronounced during the nights. Pooling their bravery, they decided to approach the door again, where the noises now took the shape of muffled cries and footsteps. Before they could react, Martin approached them, looking panicked. He hesitated but finally revealed the truth. Behind the locked door was his mentally ill grandson, James, who had a violent history. Martin believed that he could care for him, keeping him away from the public for both James's and others' safety. Stunned and concerned, they confronted Martin about the ethics and dangers of such confinement. However, before he could explain further, a loud crash echoed from the room. In the commotion, James had managed to break out. Panic filled the air as the dimly lit hallway illuminated a figure, a young man, his eyes wild and hair unkempt, charging at them with a broken shard. The two women ran, with Eliza leading Natalie to a hidden crawl space she'd found during her stay. They squeezed in, heartbeats echoing loudly in their ears. Outside, James's frenzied footsteps and shouts filled the air, mixed with Martin's desperate pleas to his grandson. Hours felt like days as they huddled together, fearing for their lives. Eventually, the noise began to wane, replaced by the distant sounds of sirens. Emerging from their hiding place, Natalie and Eliza were met by the local police. Martin, with a mix of relief and sorrow in his eyes, explained that they had sedated James and he would be taken to a secure facility. As dawn broke, the magnitude of the night's events began to sink in. The picturesque beauty of the Victorian home now carried a haunting memory for Natalie and Eliza. Martin, with tears streaming down his face, apologized profusely. He confessed that he thought he could manage James's condition, not realizing that his love and concern were blinding him to the reality of the situation. Natalie and Eliza left the Airbnb, their view on the place forever tainted. They departed not with tales of the beautiful English countryside, but with a harrowing story of a night where they stared danger in the face. The Victorian house, though beautiful, held within its walls a chilling reminder. Sometimes the most picturesque settings hold the darkest secrets. In the shadows of the night, if our tales from Unsettling Horror Stories gave you a fright, press like and let it be known. Subscribe, so you're never alone in this haunting journey, and share, so others too can be wary. Until our next sinister tale, stay dark, dear listener.